Hello, everyone. This is Charles from Georgia Parents for Kids' Rights. We are doing our court watching report today. Uh, we have one of our volunteers, Derek Frazier, here, who helps us a lot with our Rule 22 motions. If you are watching this content, please go ahead and share it out to all your friends. We do need to get our page views up and whatnot. That does help us when we go and talk to legislators to have a very high level of people watching our content and whatnot. Um, for those of you guys who don't know, one of the things that we do to try to help you guys in your individual cases is Rule 22 motions. And what a Rule 22 motion is basically we come in and we ask the court to be allowed to record the proceedings, especially when there's things that it's going on that are questionable, either by the judge, by opposing counsel, by a guardian ad litem, or anything like that. And you know, a camera keeps people honest. So we all know that cameras keep people honest. So that's one of the things that we aim to do. So Derek has spent the last 2 days watching a court case in Cobb County. This one was in front of Judge Ann Harris. In our Rule 22, the judge can deny these Rule 22s, and they can put restrictions on our Rule 22s. So this was a very interesting case. The first thing that struck me as odd in this particular case is there was a response by both the guardian ad litem and the mother's attorney objecting to our Rule 22. The objection from the guardian was 9 pages long. It was unbelievable. And I normally don't go to these things, but because of that, I actually went because there was a hearing on our Rule 22. And essentially, what do you think it was, Derek? About 2 hours that we spent arguing about whether or not I should be recording this proceeding?
Yeah, that was shocking to me. That's the first time I've witnessed something like that. Generally, these hearings are 5 to 10 minutes at the beginning of the day. This I couldn't believe this thing drug out for 2 hours. It was a shocking experience for me. Hopefully, we don't continue to see situations like that.
Yeah, and so what the outcome of that was is we were allowed to record it, but it was audio only. And we have been basically told we can't use the parties' names, at least in a way that they'd be identified. So we may be using first names only here. I don't mind saying the judge's name because I think that she's an elected official and she needs to uh, the people that elect her need to understand what's going on in her courtroom, good, bad, or otherwise. So this is Judge Ann Harris. I won't be mentioning the attorneys, in part because I think that there are some improprieties with these attorneys in this particular case. They've given lots and lots of money to this particular judge, as has the guardian ad litem, though not quite as much as the attorneys have. And they have a higher than normal rate of success there. But they've spent a lot of money doing it. So I don't want to talk too much about that, but Derek, do you have any general ideas or what was the main focus of the litigation in this particular case?
It was very clear. I mean, this is seemed to have been a pattern that I've noticed. It's pretty, you know, obvious to me that the focus of most litigation in these trials are financially related. And I was just looking at my audio footage that I got from the last 2 days. Yesterday, this was a very long trial. Yesterday, it started at 9 a.m. and I didn't get out of there till about 6:30 p.m. Today, we started at 8:30 a.m. and got out of there at 6 p.m. So it was dragged on for a very long time. Out of those 2 days, I got 12 hours of audio footage, approximately. It was slightly under that, about 11 and a half hours or so. And I would say at least 50% of that, they were talking about the financial situation of both parents, but significantly more time was spent digging through the financials of the father, the petitioner.
Okay, and one of the things when I do these Rule 22s, I don't do them blindly. So I looked through a lot of the pleadings. There's been tons and tons of pleadings. This has been a 2-year case, and I guess for the sake of our viewers that don't know what kind of case this was, because I didn't premise it, this was a legitimation case of one child. Basically, the mother and father were not married at the time of birth. The father wants rights to the child. And so they basically go through a custody dispute, very much like a divorce. But one of the things that struck me as odd was the attorney for the mother was asking that the mother's attorney's fees be paid by the father. And there was a weird thing in there that suggested that the the paternal grandparents should actually pay for the fees. Was that an issue in this case?
Uh, so it wasn't brought up uh, specifically. I would venture to guess that that was kind of left out because we were there, just from the effect that our presence has had on cases up to this point that I've noticed. That seems like one of the things that they don't like to talk about in front of when they know there might be an audience is, typically, especially egregious things like that, where, you're asking a non-party of the case to pay for or to be responsible for a vast amount of, when we're talking, I want to say there was like $68,000 from what I remember, in attorney's fees that are, that just for the mother side that have not been paid, that were on the table. Plus the last 2 days of trial, and there were, the mother had 2 attorneys there, plus the guardian ad litem. So that's 3 attorneys on her side, and she was, she's responsible for a portion of the guardian ad litem's fees as well.
And we kind of talked a little bit before the show. They actually put off the award of attorney's fees, whether or not the father is going to pay any of the mothers, or, and it didn't look like from the pleadings that the other way around was going to be a likely option, but maybe there was something that happened at the trial. But they actually have put off ruling on any award of attorney's fees in this particular case, correct?
That's correct, and we will certainly be present for that hearing, so we can report back to you guys and let you know how these courts operate, because it's very important, especially for people that have not been through this yet, to understand the kinds of things that go on in these hearings and trials, and trying to be a responsible father to your child, the way that you're treated and the things that are expected of you. I think it's very important for people who have not been through this process to understand what you're exactly getting yourself into.
Right, right. And so you had mentioned that the mother's attorney's fees seem to have gotten up to about 68 grand. So the father had, I think, three attorneys throughout the case of it. Four attorneys throughout the case of it. And so he obviously had to pay those as well. I, I think that the attorney's fees, the guardian's fees in this case have exceeded $200,000, if I am correct in after I've reviewed all the stuff in here. And it may hit 300,000 after the last 2 days of litigation. Plus we have another day that's coming up. God only knows how long that's going to take. So was there,
to go into a little bit more detail, I will say that the original split for the guardian ad litem was 80-20. The father was responsible for 80% of the fees. The mother was responsible for 20. At the end of the hearing today, the judge adjusted that to where the father is responsible for 60% and the mother for 40%, which I thought was, at least considering I consider that he got railroaded today. Uh, that was at least a little bit of a financial relief. I mean, the guardian ad litem, uh, her proposed parenting plan was, in favor of the mother every other weekend for the father, first, third, and fifth weekends, so the typical arrangement. So, you know, the guardian ad litem essentially worked for the mother. And I think it's, at least she was responsible for some of that payment.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So let's kind of get to it. You kind of gave the situation, so it doesn't sound like there was anything that was disturbing as far as the father's parenting ability, correct? I mean, if you get every other weekend, presumably you're not too bad of a guy.
Yeah.
Normally
And
this isn't a termination of parental rights
right.
type hearing.
Yeah. And I wasn't, I've spoken to the father on several occasions. He's, I've had some extended conversations with him. I always, I've thought he's a good guy and everything. And there wasn't anything that was brought to light today that was anything normal than any other relationship that, obviously these things are put under the microscope when you're on trial. And of course the unfortunate reality of a trial is you're forced to make the other parent, put them in the worst light possible to increase your chances of gaining a favorable ruling. And there was nothing that I thought was, I mean, yeah, beyond what my thoughts are. I don't, there was nothing to deny him equal, equal access to deny the child equal access to the father, in my opinion, as should be the case.
Right.
And also, in my opinion.
Right, right. Well, and that's something that we fight here for here with Georgia Parents for Kids' Rights is, we kind of discussed the attorney's fees and $200,000 or $300,000. I mean, most people can't afford that. Was this a situation where we were dealing with? I mean, we can't say who the parties were really, but we weren't watching Cardi B and Offset's case today.
No, certainly not. I will talk about his financials. His 2018, 2019 tax returns were over 70,000, under 75,000. So this is a norm, maybe slightly above average income. And I can't imagine spending that kind of money. I mean, that's something that I'd like to talk a little bit more on. If you're going through a situation like this, I mean, geez, really, you gotta. I mean, yeah, it's okay to put up a little bit of money, but at a certain point, in my opinion, you need to kind of cut your losses. And because look, this guy put out a lot of money and effort that he's going to be paying for a long time, and he could have gone to court himself, self-represented, not spent any of that money, and he would have got the same ruling.
Right. And Shelley says it's sickening. It takes away from the child. It absolutely does. I mean,
it literally turns my stomach while I'm sitting there watching this. And literally, they're talking about the best interest of the child. Well, they're supposed to be talking about the best interest of the child, but more than half the time, half of this 12 hours of recordings that I have are talking about financials.
Right, right. And so Gil asks, is it a legitimation, no marital assets? Absolutely. That's all this was a legitimation case.
To expand on that a little bit, assets were brought up though, even though it wasn't a divorce. And the father's attorney brought up, this isn't a divorce, this is a legitimation. We shouldn't be talking about assets. Well, otherwise, the court decided otherwise. They did need to discuss the assets.
I mean, yeah, there's no reason to discuss assets in a legitimation case. The court can't divide assets in a legitimation case. There is a question of child support, of course, but that is based on the party's income. And
Mhm.
my understanding is that the father is a pilot, and that he's not been able to work much, if at all, in the last year since we've been in this COVID-19 pandemic. Is
Mhm.
that what was kind of shown at the trial?
Yeah, I mean, there was, of course, the opposing attorney, the mother's attorney, was, making a case around, oh, he's trying not to work. You know how it is. I mean, maybe for the people that are watching, they don't know how it is. Charles knows how it is, but they're always going to say that you're, minimizing your income so that you don't have to pay child support. The common argument is that dads who want to have equal access to their children are just trying to get out of paying child support. That's something that we hear often.
And when we look at the attorney's fees in this particular case, um, and we look at what this man had been making, not rich by any stretch of the
Mm,
imagination. He was a middle class type person, and I don't think that he intentionally created COVID-19. If there was
most
evidence of
certainly
that,
not.
let me know.
Yeah,
Um, but and I don't think that he was working for a huge airline, actually.
yeah, he's a
Um,
regional airline.
and so, as somebody who flies relatively frequently, I know that they've cut a lot of routes out, even with the big airlines. So I have to imagine that the smaller ones are struggling even more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, I bought plane tickets today for $30 each way. They
Yeah.
don't have a lot of money to pay pilots.
Uh-huh.
And so, um, that I don't think he was willfully unemployed. Um, was there anything? Actually, Gil just asked this. Did the judge make any notable comments? I know there was actually a comment that we're gonna take and send this
Mm.
audio clip out to people later on. That was made by the father that was mirroring the mother's attorney's comments to him previously. And I do kind of want to, before you answer that, I want to put everybody in an understanding that this happens to mothers all the time too. If this guy was a multimillionaire, as it seems like was almost thought, he could have buried her in litigation.
Yeah.
And this is just one of those cases that the person that got to the attorney that paid the judge a lot of campaign contributions seems to have made out like a bandit. But I mean, even Cobb County has been notorious for whoever has the right attorney wins, no matter how good or bad them or the other parent seem. It's just it's mind-boggling. It's one of the worst in the state. So just to have you speak to Gil's question, and then maybe even go and kind of give a brief overview about the comments that were made previously to the father.
Yeah. So notable comments by the judge. Nothing that really stands out aside from the one that I'm going to go to that was a response to uh, a statement made by the plaintiff about the an interaction he had with the defendant's attorney. Yeah, I mean the judge, you know, I, I'm not gonna say she seemed relatively okay, fair, but I mean I don't agree with the parenting plan. We all know that I am a proponent of equal shared parenting. So, uh, Lilu, come on, Ah, get out of here. Uh, oh yeah, so yeah, the one comment that really stood out to me was so let's see, what the father was discussing. Geez, I don't remember what exactly it was. I've been sitting through a long trial the last 2 days, but I don't remember exactly what the topic of conversation was at the time. But they were talking about. He brought up mediation, where the mother's attorney mentioned to him that um, he had a father that he worked against in Bartow County. No, not Bartow, Cherokee County, that had committed suicide. And I mean, the plaintiff, the way he presented that, it's much more powerful than the way I just did. And we'll get that audio to you guys here, hopefully sooner than later. But yeah, that was very disturbing. And the judge cut him off and said something about, in the last 3 to 5 minutes, I haven't heard anything that has to do with the best interest of the child. Well,
and of course, losing a parent is I mean, I don't know the child in Cherokee County or whatever county it was.
yeah,
I'm not familiar with the case, but certainly losing a child is not in the child's best, or losing a parent is not in the
to
child's best
suicide.
interest.
Yeah, to suicide
Um,
is certainly not.
and
And to expand on that a little bit, this mother that was on trial today, she also has an older daughter, and the father of that daughter, his parental rights were terminated while she was being represented by this same attorney. So it seems like he has a pattern of removing fathers from children's lives for a profit.
right, and again, it's a big profit on this particular case. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
this is I'm not going to say this is the most egregious. I've certainly seen a lot of cases, but when we're talking about more attorneys' fees than a lot of people make in 10 years,
hmm
that's troubling to me. Obviously, that money is coming out of the kids' future, their college savings accounts, their uh, whatever it is, even just taking them and spending quality time with them, take them on vacation. I mean, I don't spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on vacations, but I could make a lot of memories with my children for
certainly.
$300,000.
hmm
Um, okay.
Yeah. So when she brought up the fact that, in the last 3 to 5 minutes, while he was bringing up this allegation of the opposing attorney making a veiled threat to him, in my opinion, uh, she said, "Oh, I haven't heard anything about the best interest of the child in the last 3 to 5 minutes." And I was thinking in my head, I haven't heard anything about the best interest of the child all day up to this point. You've been discussing financials on this already strained, these already financially strained two parents. Yeah, it was just, it just seeing those kinds of things just really turns my stomach, as I've said already.
Right, right. Um, well, we're getting about to 25 minutes. I'm
Oh
going to
wow.
answer a couple of questions here. Or really just one. Um, John asks if lawyers don't help, should I go pro se? Georgia Parents for Kids' Rights is not going to tell you yes or no on that. Okay, some people do better with pro se, I guess. It is good to have somebody else that looks over things, even if you're really good at what you do. And it is a highly emotional time. So I've seen a lot of people do things pro se that most attorneys wouldn't do. The bottom line to me is you got to find it if you're going to use when you're looking for an attorney, you're not picking the cheapest one. That you're probably not going to have good results. You're not going to want to pick one that you're not compatible with. There is a compatibility thing when we're speaking about attorneys here. So your feeling of things is different than theirs is a little bit. It's you got to have a good working relationship. So I'm not going to tell you to go pro se or hire an attorney. We have a few attorneys that we trust here in the state of Georgia. I'm trying to get around to expanding that at least a little bit to give people in different corners of the state some help. But that's
Yeah,
not something that we're going to advise you to not hire an attorney or to hire an attorney. That's something that you have to decide on your own.
just a quick comment on that. The attorney the father had in this case, he did an outstanding job, in my opinion. He was the best attorney that this guy could have hoped for as far as presenting his case. And this guy still ended up with every other weekend after spending the kind of money that he had. So that's the scary thing to me is you can go, like I said, you can go to court by yourself and and you're going to get every other weekend. They're not going to, I mean, that's just what they hand out anyway. So, I mean, geez, it's a really tough thing to consider. But like I said, I mean,
Yeah. So the bottom line is that if we've been pushing really hard here at Georgia Parents for Kids' Rights, this
yeah.
concept of parents should be presumed to have about 50-50 time sharing, and that will require people to kind of go through the motions of dealing with maybe mediation. Maybe they can kind of mediate it on their own without going to a mediator. Do you think that the interest of this child would be better protected with that particular in this situation if there was a default of 50-50 and maybe they spent $20,000 in
Oh,
attorney's fees to get it mediated
oh, yeah.
versus the 300,000 in 3 years of litigation?
Exactly. Yeah, that's a very good point. Like from the outset, that's what this father was requesting was 50-50 arrangement. And that's, I mean, that was actually a big part of the arguments in the case was, oh, he was, he's been, dead set on this 50-50. And, that's how this legitimation action actually started was by him, you know, the very idea of having to get legitimated to your child, that's what started the conflict in this case. Was he found out that he didn't have any legal rights to his child while they were still living together, and he went to get legitimated and started the court proceedings, and now all of a sudden the conflict has been authored by the judiciary as
Right.
yeah.
And again, I'm not going to mention the name of the mother's attorney. I looked up his campaign contributions he's given to some of the legislators that have seemed to oppose us, which is weird because they're on both sides of the aisle. Most people give to either Democrats or Republicans. This one gives lots of money to judges and a little bit of money to various other candidates, and they tend to sit on both sides of the aisle. So, and that's a big issue that we have here. So, this is the kind of conflict that this creates. I mean, this poor child has gone through 2 years of heavy litigation. The parents are fighting, all because the law presumes that one parent is going to be a parent and the other parent is going to be an every other weekend visitor. And so they really have to both fight to be the parent and make the other one the visitor, because otherwise you're going to be the visitor.
Mm-hmm.
And the studies show overwhelmingly
Yeah.
show that children do best if they have equal time with their parents, if they're in a divorce situation, or if the parents aren't living
Yeah.
together. I mean, I will say living together with your child's other parent is generally in the child's best interest, but we know that's not always realistic in 2021.
Yeah, and I'd like to take just a second to give my opinion on. I mean, geez, to see the amount of money that was put out in this case and the kind of results that he. I mean, I hate to see that kind of money go to into feeding this broken system. I mean,
Mhm.
Charles here is an excellent resource for this state of Georgia for the legislation that we're trying to get pushed through. And I mean, in my opinion, if Charles had that $200,000 instead of these attorneys, and we were able to push this legislation, I mean, geez, I could only assume that the outcome would be better, not only for your particular case, but for the cases of all the children in Georgia currently and in the future. I mean, I think that's something that people really need to consider is how much money that they're putting into this broken system, and could it be better allocated somewhere else with people who really do know the statistics and know the outcomes of these children that are subjected to these kinds of situations, and reallocate some of your funds to preventing this from continuing to snowball. Uh,
Yeah, it definitely is it's a bad situation all around for the children to continue to um, go through what they're going through. So um, that's why we're trying to change it. We have a lot of pushback from the Georgia Trial Lawyers Association and some others. And there's a lot of money that's feeding this beast. So we're doing everything we can. We're asking everybody if you can donate, that's wonderful. You can go to our website, gpkr.org. There's a link at the top to donate. If you have some time that you can go to the Capitol, we would appreciate that. The other thing that we can look at um, is, even just calling your representative helps. And sharing content like we're doing. Try to invite people to to our page. A lot of legislators will look at that when I come in and I say, "Hey, my name is Charles. I'm the lobbyist with Georgia Parents for Kids' Rights." They'll pull up our Facebook page and see how many likes we have. So we need everybody to get as many people to like our page, ideally in Georgia, but across the nation too. Invite all your friends to like our page because there's some other children's rights organizations out here, and I'm not going to say good, bad, or otherwise about any of them. A lot of them have good aspects and bad, but we are asking everybody to get that up to where we are considered the children's rights organization, the go-to children's rights organization, because we do believe that children deserve both parents. In the vast majority of cases, just like all the experts do. And
mhm.
we're working really hard to do that, but we need to have the influence. So, whatever you guys can do, whether it be donations, whether it be giving us your time, whether it be sharing posts. I mean, we need all the help that we can get. So, share the posts, share our page, get as many people, talk to people. I mean, you would be amazed at how many people that have watched my personal page that are personal friends that are not affected. And then all of a sudden they'll send me a message and say, "Hey, Charles, I know that you work really hard on issues like this. So um, I've got a friend that's going through this, or my brother just went through this. Can you kind of help him out?" I mean, I've had to talk people off of a cliff before, so to speak. I mean, like you said, there was the father that committed suicide. Unfortunately, you know, sometimes we can't get to all of them,
One of
and that
many.
sounds like the issue.
Yeah, one of many, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly. Um, let me. I'll do this real quick. John asks, "What is the status of House Bill 96 and what can we do to help?" Called my reps and have been spreading the word, but what else can we do? Uh, there's a lot more than I necessarily want to go in right now, but right now we are still stuck in committee. Chairman Ballinger does not seem like she's going to give us a hearing before crossover. Crossover day is Monday. And for those of you guys that don't know what crossover day is, basically all the bills that originated in the House have to cross to the Senate in order to get passed that year. And all bills that originated in the Senate must cross over to the House. That means that she has to hold a hearing on Thursday. She only holds hearings on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then we would have to somehow convince the Rules Committee to allow the House to vote on it on the floor on Friday. And so it's crossed over by Monday. We're going to have we've got some other things we can do. We can still have a hearing after crossover, but it would be next year before we actually get legislation in. So that's kind of where we're at. What can we do to help? Keep spreading the word. Get every representative you can to get behind this bill. We have some options that we're looking at. If we have senators, we and it may again be next year. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint. So we're gonna be working really hard with our representatives. So keep spreading the word. Keep spreading the word. Keep calling your legislators. You would be surprised. I had a representative that heard from a constituent. She was a hard no. When the constituent called, all of a sudden she's a yes. So that is very, very important. They don't want to hear from a lobbyist. I can only vote for one representative and one senator up there. But you guys are the boots on the ground. They care what you think. Most representatives went there for the right reason. Okay, so especially these young freshman senators and representatives, Derek, you can probably tell, and Derek's been to the Capitol with me several times. They come in there for a reason. They do want to help. So please keep calling them. And the more they hear about shared parenting, then I walk into their office and say, I have a solution for all the calls that you've been receiving. All of a sudden, I don't have to sell very much. So please keep doing that. Keep the pressure up. All the same representatives will be back next year. We may have some other strategic things that we're going to do. Natalia and I will be working with some other representatives to do that. That's not something I can say on a Facebook Live, though. So that's what we're doing. Parental alienation says share outside the normal circles. Absolutely, because we don't want to keep screaming into an echo chamber. Joe says put the number up. At this point, we're just pissing her off. She's gotten probably 500 phone calls. So I'm not going to continue to beat her up on that over the phone. Her poor assistant is worn out. Her assistant's a wonderful person. She's been fielding all these phone calls from all of us, all over the state, all over the country. She's exhausted. So I'm not going to keep putting up the number for Mandy at this point. We're going to try to get this concept maybe reassigned to a different committee or something. And there's some things we can do for that. But yeah, so Ryan, what else is being done? We're trying to travel around the state, talk to different groups. COVID kind of slowed that down a little bit, but there are still a lot of places in Georgia we can do that. We don't go around the state very often during session because we need to be able to get to the Capitol quickly, and we need to spend as much time at the Capitol as we can. So this
And
summer we'll probably be doing a lot more events than we are right now, because we're going to still be up at the Capitol all the way until the last bell dings, which is at the end of the month. So,
and
uh,
Ryan, I'd like to touch on this a little bit. It seems to be a no-brainer. I agree with you entirely. Unfortunately, especially for these legal professionals like the guardian ad litem today, she was convinced more conflict. Are you losing my audio when it goes
a
black?
little bit, yeah, it breaks
Okay.
up a little bit, but it
Okay.
only goes for about a second broken.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. So, I mean, these legal professionals, they're so headstrong into the every other weekend is the best thing for these kids. They do not understand the issues that they're causing in the long term. They get their money. They're involved in these cases throughout the case. They get their money. They go on to the next case and continue the problem. So they are. I mean, I know it's a no brainer for all of us because we see it every day from all these different shared parenting groups and so on. If we had more money, if Charles' organization had more money, we could be sending educational materials to these legal professionals like this guardian ad litem. She's absolutely clueless as to the benefits of shared parenting and all the recent studies, proving that. If there was money in the coffers to be able to send her educational materials, maybe we could fix this thing at the ground level. And if we could change the opinion and the mind of one guardian ad litem, all of a sudden every other case that comes after her or after this could potentially be different. But I mean, all this stuff takes money, guys. And like I said, I spent at least 20 hours the last 2 days, volunteering here. And after I got out last night, I went and had dinner with Charles, and then I went and Ubered till midnight, and came home, and I was up again at 7 a.m. heading back to the courthouse. So I mean, this
yeah,
this really takes a lot of effort and it needs I mean,
and yeah, and we're all volunteers. I mean, we
mhm,
are absolutely all volunteers. We're doing the best we can with this. Derek makes a good point. One of our outreaches is going to be educations to
exactly.
attorneys and judges. Again, that's kind of something we have to do after session because we want our focus to be on actually changing the law. But
Yeah.
the but again, the law takes a long time to change. So what we're going to try to do is, if we can change the heart and mind of one judge, we've helped God only knows how many children. So
Mhm.
that's important as well. So yeah, and we another good source for you guys if you want to raise awareness, especially in political circles. Generally, your county Republican or Democrat, or Libertarian for that matter, meetings are fantastic places to go and bring it up because a lot of times they'll have a state representative or a state senator come and speak. I've been on both Democrat and Republican ones. They have elected officials. Sometimes they'll be talking about one particular thing, tie it to shared parenting, and that'll help out a lot too. So your legislators do care a lot of times what you believe. And those who don't, then we'll get rid of them and we'll try to get somebody else in there. So I'm not going to go, too much longer here, but that's what we're going to be doing. We're also going to create more of this shareable content for you guys to get the word out to people outside of our circles. Because the more people that are calling their legislators saying, I'm not an affected parent, I'm an affected child, or I never knew that shared
Mhm.
parenting existed, or I didn't know the benefits of it, but now I do, and I want you to pass this. The more calls that they get, eventually, even the ones that are bought and paid for by the Trial Lawyers Association are going to have to just break down. So, please, please, please go to those meetings. They're sometimes a lot of fun. I've gone with Derek a lot of times to
Oh
some
yeah.
of them. Um, Democrats are tending to do them online right now, which means that you don't even have to leave your house. But a lot of times they're very social events, and you get to actually sit down and shake their hand and tell them what your issue is. And when I see them next time, send me a message. Say, hey, Representative Smith said that he wants to hear more about it. I'll go in and talk to Representative Smith the next time. That way, well, it's fresh on his mind. So, anything else that you guys can do to spread the word is so helpful. So, all right. Well, we are going to get out of here. I appreciate everybody for tuning in, sharing it. If you haven't shared it yet, share it now. Share it to your group pages. Share it to wherever you need to share it to. We want as many eyes on this issue as possible. We're going to be creating a lot more of this, so stay tuned for more things. All right.
All right. Have a good night, Charles.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks.